Hi there, I'm making another version, but I really find I cannot make a short version of my video. I thought I looked too sleepy because I have a fever, I'm a little bit under the weather. Um, but I made a video called Project Glasshouse, or the Glasshouse Project. I'm inviting people to help me do a project this summer, and of course if you are in Europe you can also probably join. What this is about is going to Morocco, probably, and doing a demonstration of changing sand into glass using only sunlight. For some reason the pronunciation of glass doesn't really work well with my my verbal apparatus. But why is that interesting? Well, I can explain that, and but to do that, there's some electronics technology that I'm working on. There's Fresnel lenses that I'm working on. We need to go to Morocco, find a location, and do a kind of a large-scale computerized manufacturing process, like building a plotter of about 5 by 5 meters, and then using it with sand and sunlight in order to create some kind of well, a proof of concept of building with glass and only sunlight. The reason why that's important is a quite complex story once again, but if you can boil it down, our economy is a carbon credit economy. Its principle is that it maximizes the utility of carbon, of fossil fuels. That from a period where there was lots of manual labor, we have arrived in a period where everything that we see around us has some form of carbon input in its manufacturing process. This is very positive for people, of course, in the Western world, in the world that has control over in the part of the world that has control over the carbon resource, because we have a very nice life, very relaxed. We're not laborers. We don't diet when we're 40 years old. And but it has a drawback as well, and that's basically that in the economy, processes that are not obeying the laws of the economy, that they don't maximize the use of carbon, that they don't exploit natural resources, that they don't bring stuff to market and such, that those activities simply don't match the paradigm. They can't happen in it. And to give an example of an activity that can't happen is, if I go to a bank and I say, well, I want to take all the dry zones of Africa and make a huge forest in them, which is irrigated with channels and stuff, and I will make every part of Africa green where it's now desert. Why? Because we need enormous amount of carbon to recapture from the atmosphere, and we can do it that way. And as you know, while I'm at it, I'll make barges, large ships and rafts, and I'll make a belt across the equator from Africa to South America, and there will be floating forest, floating first bamboo and then other mangrove trees, and it simply will be, let's say, that ocean area will simply be made floating land, floating soil, and that of course after a while that will maintain itself. It will be a saline mangrove type stuff which will capture organic material, and of course the fertilizer is deep in the ocean. So it's possible. It's not like a theory that's a ludicrous idea. No, you could basically do that. Also because it's relatively quiet across the equator. But starting with Africa, a bank would say, well, okay, well that's fine. We'd like to invest in that. That sounds like, how are you going to make a profit? I'm not intending to make a profit. The fact that we have more life on this planet is our profit. That we basically can later choose whether we will destroy something or not. That we make more resources than we actually need. And that we do that, not so much in order to exploit it, but in order to secure ourselves with life. So the more alive, the better. Basically, that's the underlying idea. Well, banks say, well, okay, that's fine, but we have another project that is going to yield this and that money and has a nice business case, return on investment, 5 years, so we can find a lot of investors in that. And you're done. It's not going to happen. It's simply not going to happen, because the whole model is about making sure for the banking system to keep control over the money, the amount of money in circulation. And in order to achieve that, they always make profit, let's say return on investment type of calculations, where they say, okay, we loan it out now, but we need it back sometimes, because it is not, let's say, it's not useful, or free money, the money independent of the banking system in society, is undesirable, because you can buy something with it that only the banks control, and that is fossil fuels. That's the monopoly. This might sound a little bit far out, but that's actually the way it is. The money supply has to be controlled in order to be able to adapt, to the fuel supply, because you buy fuel with money. But so there you go. You're not, so you won't be able to do it. You wouldn't be able to get the fuel to drive into the desert, to build, to get the concrete, to get the, to start drilling and get the people there. It just wouldn't be possible if you are dependent on carbon. So that's why I'm interested in this technology, which means that you're not dependent on carbon. For a very powerful and important aspect of any project of eco-restoration, which is, for instance, building structures like houses, like walls, like fences, for making irrigation pipes, for building roads, for digging channels or making the lining of channels, for building desalination plants, for building glass fiber barges. If you want to make a wind turbine of glass fiber, you're welcome to. You can do that with glass, which you can melt in the desert with only sunlight. And so the reason why I'm talking about this, hoping that it will actually end up being this project. I've got one supporter already, and I'm looking for more. The reason why I'm talking about this is because I think it's important to explore the possibilities. Because once you discover that you can actually harness sunlight and sand in order to build arbitrary structures or elements, or building elements, or even machines, then you know that you can do stuff that is uneconomical. That is, you can do stuff that's economical. You can, of course, build greenhouses and grow vegetables and have your own garden with swimming pool and all that stuff in a beautiful glass house. You can your whole Oz city, Emerald City, which would be green glass. I realized this afternoon. You can build all that. But you can also do stuff that is simply uneconomical, that you wouldn't be able to find people for normally, because normally people are competing for fossil fuel currency, carbon credits. Now they would not have to do that, because you have your food, it comes out of the greenhouse. You have your fresh water, it comes out of your glass desalination plant that you built without investment, except for the sand that was lying around there. So. You can do stuff that is ecologically interesting, and you can do what I was talking about. You can build channels. You can, and all that doesn't require investment, because it doesn't require anybody to commit their fossil fuel to it, and to say, well, okay, we'll do this now, but we have to get the money back, otherwise you'll buy more fossil fuels and we'll lose it again. Anyway, so in order to prove that, I want to get a hold of a couple of these big Fresnel lenses. I now get a couple of small ones, courtesy Mr. Sharon Family Connect. I don't mind thanking anybody. Small ones, but we need the big ones, and the big ones have to be ordered in 6 items per time and they are $133 per piece. So you're talking about I believe $800 or something like that, just to get the Fresnel lenses. And then we'll have to get to the location. We have to have some transportation, some lodging, a little bit more technology, and maybe some other people involved. And then we can do this thing, and I think the total cost will be about 6,000 euros. And that's what I'm trying to set up now. Well, the next step that I'll take is that I'll demonstrate with the Fresnel lens when I get it in about 8 days time. Let's say the sound tracking ability of these Fresnel lenses, and maybe a small CNC machine. I basically have all the microcontrollers that I have that I need for that in-house. I have all the electronics, so I have to be able to build that. And then hopefully that will motivate people and make them think about the possibilities of going into the Mexican desert and building there without having to get stuff and mobilize it, get it to no, just the stuff is already there. It's the sand. You can restructure it basically. Anyway, hopefully this video is a little bit better and I look a little bit less sleepy than in the other ones, and I'll keep you posted. And thanks very much for listening.